All right, welcome back to the Elias Smacko Show and the third hour of the program. Now we're going to talk about the Olympic Stadium. Love it or hate it, right? I know for me it's a hate it, but love it or hate it, they're working on Olympic Stadium. Work on the roof is halfway complete. About 45% of the $870 million budget has been spent so far, replacing the old technical ring, as they call it, at the mouth of where the roof would be. Let's talk about the work that's done and what's to come with Jeremy Filosa. He's a sports journalist at Cogeco Nouvelles, and I think in this city, the one guy that knows this dossier inside and out. Jeremy, welcome back to the program.
Thank you very much. We go way, way back. We spent quite a few days inside Olympic Stadium.
Oh, did we ever spend days at Olympic Stadium together?
Morning till night, pretty much.
And you know what? We not only did we spend some days, we also spent one day in particular. Let me take you back in time here.
All right.
8 years ago today, Here's what happened at the Big O.
Ouais, non, mais s'il y a en plein cœur du match. Oh! La balle est frappée avec force en direction du champ gauche. Et elle est partie! Vladimir! 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 Bonsoir! Elle est partie! Guerrero! Luche! Casse en l'air! On danse! On chante! Le rêve est réalisé! Guerrero! Merci pour cette fraîcheur dans le stade! Incroyable!
So that a little tribute to Roger Brulotte. We lost him a week ago. And that home run at the Big O, Blue Jays were playing at the Olympic Stadium, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with that. Yep. You were doing the radio call that night.
Yes, I was. I did the radio call on that day with my good friend Alex Agostino, who was my color commentator that day. And the last great baseball moment at Olympic Stadium, we could say. In a period of time where things were looking like there might be a possibility of getting a team back eventually, and since then, well, we know what happened.
Things were looking so good, and pandemic happens, cancels the spring training game. So many things happen here. Now, out of that, the Quebec government says, "Listen, we have to replace the roof, the technical ring, almost $1 billion." Why don't you tell our listeners the real story here about what we learned this week?
Well, the problem is the money that they have is only going to suffice basically for the roof. Now, the people at Parc Olympique that we met with this week said, we're going to try and stretch those $870 million into everything that we can possibly get. But the reality is it's not going to be much more than the roof itself. As you mentioned, we've only installed the technical roof at this point, and 45% of the money is gone. So once the actual roof is up there, we're pretty much going to be at the end of what the budget was supposed to be. So that will include the lighting, it will include the new sound system, but the inside of the stadium, at this point in time, there is no proof, there is no money, that's going towards that. And this is going to be the problem, is that if you reopen this stadium in 2028 and all you got is a brand new roof, that's cool and all, but it's not going to attract the events, the sporting events, the music events, the concerts and shows that you were hoping that you'd be able to attract, now that you have a roof, that you'll be able to use the stadium during the winter, because the reality is the inside of the stadium is still, yes, there was one revamp, but mainly it's a stadium from the 70s. Yeah. That's what it is.
Even the seats date back 50 years.
So, and there's two things with the seats, is that you got the old seats that are in the stadium, the yellow and blue seats. That's one thing. But then the thing is, the seats that were closest to the field, the seats that would get moved, depending on if it was a soccer game or a baseball game, those seats have been given away. So
they were given away? They're gone?
They're gone. A lot of people have been sending me pictures saying, if they want me to bring the seat back, I'll bring it back. I think they sold them. So the people were able to buy those seats, keep them at home, and some people have them at home. The problem is they didn't wait till they had absolute confirmation that they get the money to replace those seats. So right now, the 100 level is non-existent. And
So this changes everything, Jeremy, because so this means you actually couldn't hold an event. If all you do is fix this roof, the stadium, you just, that 100 level, like you say, those prime seats, they don't exist anymore. It would look insane to do an event in there without replacing them.
You're absolutely right, because the 200 level, as you remember, it's got to be at least 15, 16 feet high,
Yeah.
So, I asked to try and get confirmation. Is there a world in where we reopen the stadium and those seats are not replaced? And the answer was yes. So it's not impossible that we'd have to reopen the stadium in 2028 when the roof is all done without those seats that are the closest to the field, which are the seats that people want to have. Those are the seats people want to sit in. Those are the seats that make and generate the most money, which is the whole point of this, is to bring people back in and spend money and try to pay for some of these renovations that have been done. So it's absolutely critical. And I know that this is what the Parc Olympique want to do, because as I reported in the fall, they've asked for an additional amount, which is somewhere near $500 million to redo the inside. But if they don't get this money, as they did not get last week in the budget, well, they're going to be reopening an old stadium with a brand new roof. And for me, that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. So, Jeremy, I'm looking down the 401 to Toronto, right? And the Rogers Centre, nay Sky Dome, right?
Yes.
That facility, which was opened at the end of the 80s, okay? The Blue Jays have now spent over $500 million on the inside. They have made it a stadium that can now compete on the inside with all of the prime stadiums in North America for baseball, okay?
Yep.
Is that, like, if you look at it, that's Montreal. If we want to make that inside of a stadium so that you can have Taylor Swift or baseball, is that the number we're looking at? $500 million?
That's what probably it would have costed. But, the Blue Jays did it in a smart way. They had two major phases where they invested $300 million each time, and they did that during the winter when the team was not playing in the stadium. But as we know, at Olympic Stadium, there is no permanent tenant, and there probably won't be. So will there be an off season? Imagine if we had to close the stadium again in 5 or 6 years, when eventually maybe some money is sent their way to redo the inside. We'd have to shut it down for another 2 to 3 years. Can you imagine how disastrous that would be for everything that they're trying to put together here?
This leads me to this, okay, Jeremy, which is they've spent 45% of that first $870 million. So they still have $400 million not spent there, okay?
Yes.
You have to spend $600 million on the inside, okay? If we look at the Blue Jays, what they did at the Rogers Centre as an example, okay?
Yes.
So we're at $1 billion. I don't understand why you would spend that money when a government can say, hey, private enterprise, build a new stadium for Montreal. We'll throw in some bucks. Let's do a private-public partnership here. Do you think spending $1 billion on a stadium that no one wants to be a tenant of, that makes sense?
Listen, for me, the answer was simple. We all know that MLB is going into an expansion, in a few years. We all know that Stephen Brofman was trying to bring a team back to Montreal. As you mentioned, the Blue Jays turned a stadium, a cookie-cutter stadium, a domed stadium, into a ballpark. This is what they did. Now, why did the government not work hand in hand with Stephen Brofman and say, listen, you take care of bringing the team, and we will turn this stadium, I don't know how much it'll cost, but we will turn this stadium into a ballpark. We'll get rid of the roof. We'll keep only the base and the foundations, and we will turn this thing into a ballpark and hopefully put a retractable roof on it. And you kill two birds with one stone. You get rid of Olympic Stadium, you have your ballpark, and you get a baseball team back. Now, obviously, this doesn't happen if you don't get a team. But if you approach Major League Baseball and say, this is our plan, we will turn Olympic Stadium into a ballpark that we will be able to use with a tenant that'll be there every day for 81 games for the next 50 years, and you have an owner that's serious, like Steven was at the time, then you got something. You know what I'm saying?
I do, but
stadium, and
Common
Who's going
sense.
to use it? We're not so sure.
Common sense doesn't apply here. Now, listen, if you've loved hearing myself and Jeremy Filosa talk over the last 10 minutes here on CJAD, Jeremy, I'll take a moment here to tell our listeners about what's happening in just under a month. On April 23rd, it's a Thursday night, you and I will be on stage. I'm hosting a town hall, and you're one of the main panelists, along with Mitch Melnick, our good friend from TSN 690. Expos players like Steve Rogers and Darren Fletcher and a few more that are going to be signing autographs as well. So you're going to be part of that. I encourage everyone listening, if they want to talk about the Expos coming back, if they want to talk about what went wrong, the title of the event is Who Really Killed the Montreal Expos. We're doing it in Laval for Expos Fest, and I encourage everyone to come and join us. Go to exposfest.com, exposfest1word.com, so you can buy tickets. $25. All the money goes into children's brain cancer research, and you'll get to hear Jeremy and myself talk more Expos. Cool?
Yes, exactly. And absolutely. And if people have questions, come along and we'll take some time after the panel and answer all your questions, because, I read a million different things on social media, and a lot of them don't make sense for a million reasons. They're not doable. They're not feasible. People don't know. So we're going to try to clarify all that.
All right, Jeremy, you're the best. Thanks for coming on.
I appreciate it.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll. One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all. Bryan Adams Radio. I'm coming back to you. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.